At the state capitol today, the Board of State Canvassers reconvened to certify the recounts of proposals 2 and 3 from the November election.
What were the Democrats willing to do to pass Proposition 2 and 3, making Michigan ground zero for progressive authoritarian policy? Prop 2 effectively eliminates voter ID requirements, enshrining into Michigan's Constitution the right of voters to submit signed affidavits instead of photo ID to cast a ballot, while making future voter ID legislation, such as the recent Secure Michigan Vote efforts, unconstitutional for Michigan lawmakers to pass. Prop 2 was designed to mislead voters into thinking they are preserving voter ID, when in reality ensures Michiganders will never be required to show a photo ID to cast a ballot ever again. But that isn't all of it. Prop 2 also requires state-funded absentee ballot drop boxes, gives voters the right to request an absentee ballot, thus retaining mass mail-in balloting, and allows private outside donations to fund elections. Think Zuckbucks 2.0. But in the most egregious power grab of all, it divests local canvassing boards of their authority to conduct election audits, reserving that power solely for Michigan's Secretary of State, Democrat activist Jocelyn Benson. Thanks to efforts from the Election Integrity Force and the America Project, the Michigan Board of Elections was forced to allow a recount of some of the ballots for Propositions 2 and 3. Here are the results. Based on the total numbers of ballot bags and precincts, 41.5% of ballot bags and 70.2% of precincts were either not recountable or did not match. Here is a small sample of witness testimonies from challenger affidavits. Some names have been redacted for privacy. This is Eric Spakeen, a world-renowned forensics expert, formerly under contract with the state of Michigan for over 20 years, and now working with EIF on the recount.
When the ballot bags or boxes were opened, in many instances, there were additional tags or seals that had been placed on this bag or box in previous sealings that were not available or readily obvious from the vote total or from the ballot book or from any other place contained within the materials as to why or when this box would have been opened and resealed with a different seal. As the recount process started, the personnel acknowledged that it was important to confirm that all the ballots that were counted were from the precincts that they were supposed to be from. However, as part of the process, they would not allow anyone in several of the counties to look at the front of the ballots to confirm indeed that the votes that were being counted on the back of the ballot were from the correct precincts by viewing the front of the ballot. As part of the recount process, the bag or box was initially inspected to confirm no tampering or faulty seals or zippers existed on the bag. If a faulty seal or zipper or seam was broken on the bag, no counting of the ballots was done at all. Similarly, if the number of ballots in the bag did not match the tally from election night, no count was performed as well to determine if the votes were even close to the totals reported from election night. So if you had any tampering at all, it was not to a bag or to a vote or ballot total. No analysis was done whatsoever of the actual votes in that bag to determine if it was remotely close or completely different than reported on election night.
According to one challenger in Ingham County, the elections clerk instructed her that the recount would begin at 9 a.m., but by the time she arrived at 8:35, most of the tables had recounts already in progress. But that's not the worst of it. When the counting finished, the numbers did not match the poll book, but instead of recounting, the clerks manually adjusted the tally instead, claiming the discrepancy resulted from a false tabulator read. In Wayne County, duplicate ballots were found without matching corresponding original ballots. When challenged, the Board of Elections worker refused the challenge on the grounds that the precinct was out of balance. This is a direct violation of Michigan law, which requires a full investigation of this precinct. It was also noted that the election inspectors counting Detroit Precinct 6 engaged in obstruction by refusing to process 7 other challenges in a timely manner, delaying for hours while trying to insist no legitimate challenges had been made. This is another direct violation of Michigan law. There were also issues with Jerome Larkin and Frankenlist unsecured ballot box lids, weird ballot duffel bags, and in the case of Frankenlist, a missing lock on the ballot box. Because of these anomalies, Board of Elections workers let the original count stand, deeming all 3 precincts as unsecured or uncountable. That's right, this was a recount with multiple uncountable precincts. She added, "We also have documentation the Frankenlist ballot bag magically reappeared the new Ziploc." In Wayne County, another challenger noted, "While quietly observing one of the tables, I noticed the following pattern on the front side of the ballots. About 50% of them had exactly the same pattern of completion. All markings were carefully filled out with about 95% of the circle being filled up in an almost perfect fashion. These ballots were all straight Democratic down-ticket ballots with all 15 judges checked off. It appeared as if the same precise person had completed this large percentage of ballots. What are the statistical odds that the target circles would be filled out perfectly on so many different ballots?" In Kalamazoo, Lapeer, Eaton, and Allegan counties, multiple witnesses recorded a marked difference in the paperweight of ballots. It was so noticeable, in fact, that counting processes were often halted because many counters believed incorrectly that ballots were sticking together. Why would ballots from the same precincts have drastically different weights? This was noted in multiple counties. They noticed the same differences in Berry County, but they had even bigger problems there. My counting partner and I were charged with recounting Berry Township in-person ballots. She and I were shocked to find that multiple ballots had whiteout used on them, both on the front and the back of the ballot. The oval bubble was covered with whiteout and a different oval was colored in. One Republican oval was completely covered with whiteout and no alternate oval was filled in. The township clerk was called over to our table, and her explanation was that their tabulator was sensitive and would not process any ballots with stray marks, so they fixed the ballots with whiteouts. There's more. The recount of Tuscarora Township ballots revealed very serious problems. The bag of Tuscarora Township absentee ballots was found to be enclosed and sealed in an illegal manner. The bag was deemed not to be tamper-proof, not approved by the Secretary of State, and not properly sealed and labeled. The on-site Michigan Bureau of Elections representative declared that the entire bag could not be opened and inspected, and was not eligible for recounting. Approximately one-half of the 1,800 ballots cast in Tuscarora could not be examined and recounted to verify their results or authenticity. The episode violated multiple election laws, leaving only one conclusion. The election in Tuscarora Township on November 8, 2022 is tainted. The results are suspect in the least, fraudulent at the worst, and must be investigated. Remember the numbers. 41.5% of ballot bags and 70.2% of precincts were either not recountable or did not match. These numbers are indefensible. Secretary of State Benson and the Board of Elections have lied repeatedly about claims of safe and secure elections. From chain of custody issues, broken seals and spoiled ballots accidentally counted, ballot box tampering and precincts that can't be recounted, Benson and the Board of Elections have assaulted democracy and the voters of Michigan. Were bags of ballots made to order and brought to replace the actual ballots? We may never know, but one thing is clear. The voters of Michigan have been disenfranchised, and we must continue to fight for transparency and election integrity at every level to save this great state and country, or we will lose it forever. This has been brought to you by the Election Integrity Force.
Well, I'm here at Nolan School here in Detroit. They're voting. There you go. We did get a little problem. Some people who did vote here say they were, when they showed up to vote in person, that they had already voted absentee. Not the case. Election officials in Detroit, they're aware of the problem.